Alright, I've gone back to the low res because I just can't use all that memory. The camera is going to short out and then I will have nothing else to say. But I was just showing you, like, there is a high res possibility for various future performances and the like, presentations, if you will, ministrations, copulations, masturbations, and invasions, cooperations, enterprising creations, and of course, inseminations. And I brought all the nations together and I said, let us all inseminate one another. Let us mingle as in the first of days. Lords and ladies of the realm, let us all blend our seed together and start from this great vat of human orgiastic congress the future of the entire planet. Come now, everyone, men, women, children, copulate and fornicate at will, for here these are the days of the beginning, which you have not known these many centuries, but now have come again. And we shall restore the clergymen to their celestial councilhoods. We will let every maidenhood be restored by the many means which would have been called pornographic only days ago. Let our full animal nature, you, that shy one over there, with the long hair, talking into his camera, you too are going to fornicate on the day of the Lord. You are. And I've hired this woman, Helga, to do it for you. She's from Lithuania. She's 400 pounds, and she hasn't seen her vagina since the Space Challenger explosion, when she ate herself to another 20 pounds, and it began the total eclipse of her pubic area, which she calls Black Friday. You are going to invigorate her with the erection which will be forthcoming, so saith the Lord. And I'm like, what? Everyone else gets to fornicate with everyone? I gotta fuck Helga? I'm not gonna fuck Helga. I'm not gonna fuck that panda bitch. You would dare talk this way to the Lord? Fine then. I'll give you your pick of the litter. But you have to only pick from the senior citizen retirement homes and hospitals. Oh, Jesus Christ. Is there one where granddaughters are visiting? Yes, there's one right now. This is Tatiana. Oh, Tatiana, she looks nice. I could fornicate with her. Tatiana, the Lord says. Yes, my Lord. A man wishes to fornicate with you. What say you? Why, of course, my Lord. Somehow, all of a sudden, Tatiana just doesn't seem as esteemable as she once did. She should have put up a fight. She should have said, my modesty, my lord. But she did not. I have a funny feeling that Tatiana is already acquainted with the arts of love. That does mean that she probably could show me things. Hello, Tatiana. Hello, Mr. Landon. I was told I have to fornicate with you. Well, have to is a strong word. I'd prefer if we could talk first and you would see that I am a man greatly in need of the benefits of your putang. This is like penthouse letters for chronic masturbators. It's like who've gotten bored with their own penis. It's like, yeah, I don't really masturbate anymore. I just read Chronic Masturbator magazine while I'm on the can. This week's joke is, how many chronic masturbators does it take to impress a woman? Chronic. Chronic. Chronic is something that goes on all the time or regularly, repeatedly, with the suggestion that it is disintegrating in some way. Whereas an acute trauma doesn't mean that it doesn't last for the rest of your life, but it happens all at once. Chronic, in a sense, chronic injuries lead to acute injuries of a chronic origin. origin. So if you like repeatedly banged your fist on a table and one day you broke your knuckle, it was like, well, the chronic issue was the repeatedly beating your hand, and then the acute issue was the moment that it broke. And so if you would say, oh wow, my finger broke out of nowhere, like, I don't know what happened, doctor. But he would look at it and go that there may be some chronic issue attending it. So when someone has an accident and they're in a family and a relationship, there may be chronic trauma that led to that accident. That disintegrated the mind and the body, and the mind relates to the muscles, it relates to the tendons that hold the body together, that keep you coordinated. I've walked through, hundreds and thousands of miles of forest, and if you're disintegrated or too weak or whatever, that's when you start tripping, and that's when you sprain your ankle, and you're not as integrated, and you're not even up to speed with the fact, like, hey, you got to slow down, like, you're tired, or you want to get home, or whatever it is, or your mind wanders, and your body's not the Ferrari that it was a few days ago that does everything you need it to do. Right? And then think about, like, if you need a lot of focus in your job and you've got something eating away at you from some other part of your life, and how you would have to tune that out, or you'd have to protect yourself from some way. So I would look at my parents' marriage and say, my dad had to be abusive to my mom. The only person who could have survived living with her and kept their job and not died would have to be abusive to my mom, would have to be a psychopath, had to be. My dad wouldn't be alive if he wasn't a psychopath. He wouldn't be alive today. I mean, my mom gave him a physical disability for the rest of his life. He had to have surgery. I've had to have surgery. She's had a father and a husband die around her under suspicious circumstances. My mom really has an enormous force of hatred in her, as many women do. And it lives there, and no one wants to find it. No one wants to hunt that elephant. But women carry a ferocious amount of hatred of men inside of their collective sort of will body. A ferocious amount of hatred that gets meted out in the different ways they objectify men, the different ways that they expect things from men, the different ways they punish men and hurt men, and no one ever sees the effects that they have. I've now collected a list of some women that I've known who are men abusers, and bring them to mortification and death. I've collected data on this. I've studied this now for years, and I understand why people don't see it. I understand it lives in the shadow of the human mind. And these women are not getting prosecuted. They're never worried about someone finding out if they're barely aware of what they're doing. And it's just, oh, surprise, surprise, my 45-year-old husband, whose testicles have been hurting for the last 2 years, and suddenly has ALS. And his body disintegrates and he dies. And the day that I go to visit him, she invites a woman into the house who starts harassing him in his own home while he's on a respirator. And she even tells me she doesn't even know who this person is, but she let them in anyway. Right? Oopsie. And she doesn't defend him. I'm not going to risk offending my friend or his wife. This woman seems to be out of her fucking mind. She seems to be some sort of strange, retarded psycho, as women are. And it's like, holy fuck, women have no filter. They have no fucking boundaries. They have no fucking filter. It's amazing. And what I got out of it is I saw how stupid and violent women really are. They come up to a man around strangers and me and their children who's on a respirator and start sexually assaulting him in front of witnesses. That's when you know something is really fucking wrong in the world. Really fucking wrong. And how women do this to defenseless men around witnesses all the time, whether they yell at them or they humiliate them, and the control that a lot of women feel they need to have over their home, which is illegitimate. And women, in a sense, do mature earlier in many ways, where they're forced to take certain things on. Women are the reason that the Illuminati and the world leaders don't have to work that hard to control people, because they are a disintegrating influence everywhere they go. Women bring down society everywhere they are. They keep the status quo, right? They do a lot of jobs. They keep the status quo and they bring things down. Women can do the greatest crimes. Women can do the most harm. Women get away with the most things. And people give them the most generous fucking helping of convenient blindness and deafness to anything and everything that they seem to always, if you do find it out, legitimately need to do to other people because they're women. And everything has been so hard for women forever that they should be able to do whatever they want. Right? This is the dark underbelly of feminism. This is the dark underbelly because it protects this. It protects this awful, awful thing. It's like feminism to women is like a family that has a really dark serial killer little child. And they protect it and lie about it because it's their child. And of course, you have to love your child. You can't like give your child to the authorities. It's like kind of an Anne Frank story, you know, like little women, little girls are just little psychopaths, but families aren't going to rat them out. They're going to protect them and protect them and protect them until they become good enough liars and big enough boobs that they can do it all by themselves. You know, women are naturally abusive. Women are natural abusers. They're natural to have children given to them because they are the most sadistic toward children. The opposite of what you're saying. The idea of putting children with strange women is the worst fucking idea in the history of the world. I mean, but women is what gets people to trust school teachers, you know, because they're women. You look at House on the Prairie, Laura Ingalls. She's a female teacher. You don't get a lot of male teachers on House on the Prairie, Little House on the Prairie. Right? There's a reason for that. Women are always advertised as needing to be close to children because they're the most sadistic. They're the best at dealing with children in the sense that they're best at getting children, you know, where society needs them. Why not use women? Because children naturally trust women. Right? They legitimize everything. You'll see on TV how women are used to traffic children. And I watched a show where like this one female suspect, they couldn't believe that she was a child trafficker because she was a woman. And even then, the show paints her in a sympathetic light because she's female. And it's what she had to do. It's a subtle religious thing that people think is automatic to protect women, but it's a religious conceit. They're just women. They're not fucking religious objects. And like anyone else, their value should be decided by their behavior. Right? If they're liars, you rate them lower. Right? And all women are liars. And society is a lie. It's a pack of lies, commonly believed. Fashion is a lie. It's a pack of lies, commonly believed. It's nothing. Fashion goes too far. Everything becomes fashionable. And then, you know, I've had someone tell me that they work in the fashion industry and that I'm unsuitably unfashionable at one point in my life. And it was like, I wasn't really surprised. I was shocked, but I wasn't surprised. You know, we all know what the human race is saying to us. We know what people believe. We know what you go along with. Right? I come out of the house today and I don't bother brushing my hair. And my mom is like embarrassed. And it's like, it's where I live. We're just going down to the fucking car. Like, who cares whether I brush my hair? And then I come back and I look in the mirror and I think, that's not that bad. I've seen fucking people on TV with worse hair than this who call it their favorite hairstyle. I mean, it's just fashion, right? There's a snooker player I was watching. He's got his hair and it looks like he just rolled out of bed. And that's how he has his hair because it's cool. But my mom is getting mad at me because my hair is not like the hair that she's used to. If she could say, oh man, you could set the style that way. It doesn't matter. It's arbitrary. So fashion gets people to use their mind, even people, their children, and say, you can't do that because I haven't seen that before in any of these official religious magazines. Right? Anything should be fashionable. You could why won't you do anything? Why don't you paint your body red and walk around? People can do whatever they want. But you'll see that there's a lot of different fashions, but people aren't very creative, right? They aren't very creative, really. They're not. What does your favorite celebrity do when they're playing basketball? What do they dye their hair? Oh, wow, he's got different colored hair. He's a rebel. He's wearing a bandana. He's got a tattoo on his face. Ooh, that guy's got to be a real rebel. I'm going to identify with that guy. I like people who do things different. That they do things different because they set the fashion, and then you do the same thing they do. Out of the blue, here's an interesting case study. Out of the blue, I had this roommate or whatever, and one day I don't drink, so we weren't drinking, but I was like, hey, why don't I shave my head? You want to shave my head? And I guess they had a razor or something. Said, hey, why don't you shave my head? So I was like, sure, shave my head. And I had my head shaved for about a year or so, or more. And there was this guy. I went to this coffee shop, and I guess it turned out he was jealous of it or something, and he got he shaved his head too eventually. And I was like, what? This had never happened to me. I got a tattoo on the back of my head because I felt like it. I started really enjoying having my head shaved, and I had this really good idea for a tattoo, and I thought I'll put it right on the back of my head. I don't know, made sense to me. It was a black sun with a lizard in the middle. And the lizard's capable of going into the shadow world or the dream time, and they trust their instincts across time. In other words, their instincts are telling you on some level it's already looked ahead and said oh no, this person is going to go this far, but they're not going to do this. So you're safe on some level. And that's a deep subconscious ability, right? The world can do this much, but it can't do this. But you have to acknowledge what the world can do, what it has done. To protect, right, the thing that it hasn't done anything to. And you don't know what that is, really, because your mind will lock you out of it. And the only way to get in coherence with that is with the sound of your own voice. And make the sounds of acknowledgement, the sounds of grief, and you can come back into, that part of your mind, that sacred part that the world cannot thieve, cannot take from you. Because the world takes a lot of our time. It takes a lot and a lot and a lot. And you almost kind of have to be reborn. And you have to sort of build a life around you that's not about these things being given away. Just like an abusive relationship. And you learn oh, you got to pay this, you got to pay that, you got to pay that. I don't want to do things for the world. I want to generate money. Because really money is based on the womb of my mother. They've used the womb, they've used the energy, the electricity, the suggestion, and a certain kind of use of human signaling systems for the human brain to make money and to give it through the manipulation of the human mind, essentially the flesh and blood of our people and our labor, which is like our flesh and blood. What you do is part of your flesh and blood, right? If you build a house, you put your flesh and blood into that, right? And what I noticed about my mom and what went wrong, obviously, and she was raped when she was 5, is that she doesn't acknowledge anything that certain men in her life do. And so the men that were the most hurt, I noticed that these are the men, she'll acknowledge a guy that comes into her house to fix her cable more than I've ever heard her acknowledge her father's abilities or her husband's abilities or my abilities. Because this man really does something for her, whereas none of these other men did. Those other men, yeah. So any man that has any real closeness and authority and competence is anywhere near her, right, that she's mad at in any way or projects her hatred onto, he is never really an admirable person. You would never get the idea from my mom that any of the most significant, powerful men in her life as a child are decent people, except the man who raped her, about whom she says nothing wrong, ever. Her oldest brother. Isn't that something? And so you see what the mind does, the distortion. He became the righteous pupil of the eyeball of her mind. She loves him by never directing any of her anger at him and protecting him. That's something she could do, her brain can do, is protect the rapist. Right? Because the violence is so much, you have to protect the rapist to protect yourself. So you objectify what you need to do to protect yourself onto the predator, in this case her older brother. And I actually got her to tell me that he raped her. And that's a story in itself that took years. And it took my intuition. I had my mom's phone. I was looking at her Facebook with her permission one day, and there was a picture of my Uncle Art. And I said, "You know what, Mom?" She said, "What? He looks like a pedophile." This is my uncle. And no one's ever said a bad word about him. I said, he kind of looks like a pedophile to me. It looks like someone who would mess with children. And she didn't say anything. And strangely enough, she never got mad at me, which is what she usually does when I say things like this. And within a few weeks, she was drunk one night, and she told me that he had raped her when she was 5. And he'd come to her place of work in the 1980s in public and tried to apologize for it. And she had accepted his apology. Some of you might think, well, that's nice. It's like, no, it's part of the same pattern of violence. Take it from me. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I really know. I really, 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 really know. There should be a word for that apology, right? Because predators do often apologize to their prey. It's once, and it's a do-all thing, and it's like they wash their hands of it at that point. It's the most viciously insincere thing anyone could ever do to another human being. And they usually do it in public around witnesses. It's a part of the disease. So if you've ever been hurt and the person apologized to you and it didn't feel very nice, that's probably why. Okay? I'm telling you the real shit. So, do I sound too angry that this guy raped my mom? That the first novel I wrote when I was 18 or 19 was about a woman who was raped by her family, by her dad? And there was a male character mad at the female character because the female character was taking all the attention. Meaning, my body was dealing with, on one level, discreetly, the behavioral and emotional intelligence of an abusive mother who'd been raped when she was 5, but also still just beginning to have a voice of his own as a male who is basically receiving this behavioral rape and continues to be assaulted quite a lot by his own family and his mother. That's someone whose subconscious has stayed viable. And I never really took it as something arrogant to brag about, because it seemed like the effect of violence itself could be said to irritate the subconscious into a more sustained, viable operation or fidelity with the conscious mind or the neocortex. You know. That's how, like, you can live with things, these sort of what I talk about, say, the infidelity between the neocortex and the brainstem, and pain that the body deals with. A lot of pain is dealt with at the subconscious level. And the neurochemicals that are produced, and the brain, it can be like a symphony of dealing with pain. And by the time that you feel pain, essentially either that system has failed or it has a kind of planned obsolescence, where it's giving you like an opportunity to okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to reach for another glass of alcohol? Or do you want to journal and get all the alcohol out of your life because you have enough cortical activity to tell you that no matter how good it feels, that ethanol does not allow your brain to operate enough to get into a net benefit in terms of the reason you're drinking in the first place, which is to access pain and emotions. Now, if you're not drinking to suppress pain, because there are reasons to drink and just make yourself, you're really in so much, then tell yourself, hey, I'm drinking because I don't want to deal with my pain. And go drink yourself to death and just leave us alone. You know what I mean? Make a choice. But don't fucking bring other people along with you like a fucking pussy. Or put the alcohol away and then say, it doesn't mean you don't have a sedative for your pain if you're really in that much pain. But alcohol, you can't have a net benefit from that. That's a short-term thing that's just killing you. It's like killing your brain cells, killing people on TV will say, oh, it kills your brain cells. No, alcohol kills you. It starts the whole death process. Humans can live a lot of time while they're dying. People who drink are terminally ill. They're dying. Like you're embalming yourself. Right? That's why you can't, decent psychologists will not work with someone who drinks because you can't fucking do anything. You're just you're brain dead. You can't fucking do any work with someone who drinks alcohol. Although psychologists want your money, so they'll still deal with you if you drink alcohol. Only if you've been, categorized as an alcoholic. Necessarily will they ban the alcohol as part of your therapy. But really, no psychologist should work with anyone who's drinking alcohol because it's useless. But the thing is, what the psychologist is doing is useless, so it doesn't really matter. So you might as well just stay home and have a drink, right? Because psychology is like a religion. It also makes you brain dead, right? Psychology is nothing. Psychologists are not intellectuals. They're not intellectually honest and really courageous people. Like teachers. That's not what they're paid for. Okay? So, if you want, you can't use alcohol and grow as a person. It's a death chemical. Explore it like that. You want to come and tell me hey, there's all these benefits to this death chemical and embalming yourself? You go right ahead. I know a little bit about what alcohol does, and I know that it produces euphoria as one of the effects, and I'm glad that it does. I mean, if you were dying, it would be something to consider drinking a lot of, wouldn't it? That's what I would do. I'd be like, hey guys, I'm dying. I'm going to have a lot of something to drink. Oh, hey guys, death isn't so bad. I just found out how to urinate into my own mouth. Because alcohol kills you. And it numbs everything. So it's that's pretty good. And it lowers your heart rate. Oh, that's really good too. The body, it starts to prepare you for death. It's an embalming fluid. Right on, man. I bet your coroners really love people who drink themselves to death because they're already halfway there. Or morticians, I should say. And, just fucking kill yourself, Alcohol is great. When you look at liquor stores, people coming out, they're really taking that advice to heart. What was it called now? Go fuck yourself or go kill yourself. Or why don't you just be a stupid douchebag who just fucking kills himself and laughs about it? They should have t-shirts in a store that sells alcohol. It says, I'm killing myself and loving it. And the government lets this go on, of course. Liquor stores everywhere. You can get it everywhere. Pubs, bars, the airport. You can go anywhere and get a drink, right? A drink, we call it. Like you're fucking giving yourself some fucking sustenance, Oh, and they say, wine is so good for you, and red wine is better than white wine, and blah, 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 blah. Go eat a fucking grape and shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Just go eat a fucking grape, you fucking moron. Go eat a fucking grape, you fucking piece of shit. Shut that slobbery diarrhea fucking infested mouth of yours. I hate fucking ethanol freaks. They're all heroin addicts. And all the state programming and everything in all the world, well, not every part of the world, because I'm guessing the Muslim countries don't have a lot of alcohol, but it doesn't matter because fucking Islam is fucking ethanol. It's the same thing, man. You're choking on that shit. Estrogen, it inhibits testosterone, right? We're over-feminized as a race. That's why we have all these problems. That's why women are so fucked. We're all over-feminized. The goddess is fucking choking. We're fucking, getting absorbed by her fucking womb and we haven't even been born yet. And that's what history is. It's an abortion. women should listen up. Although I don't invite you to listen to my channel. Go, cunts, now. Go, leave, cunts. Leave cunts to work. Leave, oh, woman. Sick woman. Bad woman. Bad. Like a lamb. No, we don't want women around. Yeah. No children, no women. I'm banning them from my channel forever because I get stalked. Women just stalk. I should give a whole little fucking ministration on that. Women stalk me. They just fucking stalk me. That's why I love living near my mom, even though she's abusive and everything. Like, women stalk me. Any other woman is gonna stalk me anyway. I'm gonna get stalked. I've been stalked by roommates, for fuck's sake. I've been stalked by my fucking landlords. I've been stalked by their fucking ugly friends. It never stops, man. The party never ends. These fucking cunts, they never stop. They never fucking stop, man. That's a good picture, man. Yo, hail Satan and pass the ammunition. You know what? I'm allowed to do this. I'm bold and I'm cold and I'm old. I'm growing like a stupendous branch of a giant motherfucking tree that goes back to the Garden of Ebony. It's in the Garden of Ebony where black people lived in freedom. And we all were like, we're all black back then. They were like, hey, Blackie. And I was like, hey, back at you. What's this talk I hear about some white people entering the human tribe? What's wrong with those motherfuckers? They got no melatonin and shit. Fuck. They're like vampires. They should live under the ground. Vampires and shit. You hear that, Tony? Vampires living among the beautiful ebony people. Look at the keys on a piano. That's what happened to the beautiful original world, is a bunch of white people bringing their odd fucking notes and tones and shit. Fact is, used to have white people among the indigenous people. At all colors. When something's wrong with your father, there's something wrong with the world. When there's something wrong with your mother, there's something wrong with the world. When there's something wrong with your brothers, there's something wrong with the world. When there's something wrong with your sister, there's something wrong with the world. When there's something wrong with your aunties or uncles, there's something wrong with the world. And then lo and behold, it's not only a matter of time before there's something wrong with you. And then lo and behold, everyone around you just starts to think there's something wrong with you. My introduction to an adulthood was, hey, there's something wrong with you. And I already thought there was something wrong with me because, well, there was nothing wrong with me in that I really enjoy being alive. I've always enjoyed beauty. If I had artistic parents who weren't psychopaths, I would have been put in, art, writing, film school, multimedia. I'd be, just, I thrive in any artistic environment, for sure, as long as I can do what I want to do. But I was just really shy, and I didn't feel comfortable with my own shyness. That's why, shyness isn't always like, a nice quality to have. It just means you're scared. When people are scared, they freeze. And you freeze, your body language is like, I don't know what to say, I hope nobody talks to me, I'm not comfortable, so, no one wants to really interact with someone that's uncomfortable because you've got to make them comfortable first, and they don't look like they even want to be comfortable. And then you introduce girls into the mix, and there was this girl that sat across from me in science class in grade 8, and her and her friend Crystal Lawrence and her friend Jennifer Redmond sat right there, and this was the beginning of high school, and here they were. These were the two most beautiful, popular girls in the school, and lo and behold, why are they so beautiful and popular? Well, They're comfortable. They're really, really comfortable. They're in a strange environment. They're in a science class, but they're really comfortable in their bodies. They come from nice families, you know. They take care of their teeth and their hair, and they've got nice clothes, and they've never probably had anyone yell at them too much. If you went home to their bedroom, it would be like this beautiful big bed with a quilt, and there'd be perfect pictures and stuffed toys everywhere, and their life was filled with love and order. So lo and behold, wherever they go, they feel pretty comfortable. And the world responds to them in kind. There's no aggro. They don't live in an aggro world. It's a completely beneficial thing for a human animal that we generally acknowledge is the ideal. No aggro. No aggro, no anxiety. A consistent, what do they do with dogs? A consistent environment. Discipline isn't, I'm going to yell at you. It's just pattern and order and repetition. This is, sometimes I need to tell you what to do, and this is what I need you to do, and if you do this, you'll feel better, and everything's good, and you can do that, and my job is to do that in a way that doesn't hurt you and gives you a chance to learn because you're young. And that's my responsibility to you. If you feel afraid, I'm doing it wrong. But here's some things you need to do. And if you do them, and I mean, who can't train a child to do a couple things? You know what I mean? Like, if you can't train a child without hurting them or young to do a couple things, like clean your room, and you're not treating them with and if you can't do that, you're probably not respecting them at all. And they're scared, and they're upset, or they're poisoned, or somebody's hurting them, or the environment is not something that they're even a good idea for them to emulate, or they are emulating it, and they're becoming just as sick as you are. And you don't like it, lo and behold, because nobody likes sickness, and no one likes sick people, and your own children don't fucking like you because you're sick, and you make them feel sick. That's an aggro environment. Now you're living in a totally different world. And when you grow up from a couple generations of poor people or farming people whose lives are politically unstable, let's say, and become intrinsically aggravated in a way where they live in denial. I know what happened in my mom's family, for instance, Mennonite farmers. I don't know what happened in any or all of their lives when they were children. You can only imagine what they saw or what. It's so far away, and I see my grandpa's face, and I want to know everything. I say, Grandpa, I want to know everything. Tell me what you saw when you were a child. Tell me, please. Was it nice? Did you have fun? Did you have to work hard? Probably, right? Do you feel your labors came to fruition? Where did they come to fruition? And it was clear to me as a child that my mom did not have a good relationship with her father. There was no real intimacy there. You don't know it as a child, but you know it because your brain knows it as a child. I know what I noticed. I just didn't know what I was noticing. And there's no real intimacy there with her mom and dad at all. My mom, you get something early on, and I found out what it was, had ripped that connection away. Stolen it from my mom, stolen it from her parents. And you might ask, that probably sits in a category of articles of things that ripped different things away from different people throughout my mother's life and in her family's life. to smoke some fresh marijuana. So my mom could be found very comfortable working, picking berries on a farm. Even a farm nearby where she'd used to live. She liked being out there in the fields. I didn't sense any angst or any misgivings about the fact that she wasn't on the land she'd grown up on, even though it was probably within a square mile of these farms she would go and pick berries on. And I could have too, but I just didn't feel like. And her son was more of a poet. I just remember smelling the sun, and from the contrast of, say, being in a sterile school environment, papers shuffling and desks, to being out on the farm, and to smell the dirt and the manure and the sun and the flies and everything. And to know that I could walk over here, down here, and see these trees, and just had little, like a little elk. I could just walk around, and my mom never worried about me going off somewhere or getting lost. Like, I automatically knew, all that was established instinctually. Although my mom never recognized it, that I had an extraordinarily great sense of, like, I stayed fairly close, and and I loved it. And compared to like a schoolroom or a rainy day in winter, this was heaven. This was like a heaven that had been born, maybe from another heaven, and I was in heaven. If I was, so my best feelings about heaven on this earth, I don't call them memories, they're feelings about heaven on this earth, were in certain areas, in regions where I lived, so they were geographically connected. I could take you right back to my hometown and tell you a place that I can walk, and sometimes when I was walking there, I would get feelings of heaven. Just right here, at this particular location, or along here. I could tell you what street I walked down when I got that feeling, when I, that day, went home and for an hour wrote a short story, the first short story I ever entered into a contest, and won. And it was just, I had it all at once in my head. Because I sense that the celestial order of knowledge is something that can really, is like very high brain function. And I could wait, I've written a lot of books, and I could wake up, that aren't published, I could wake up and just have paragraphs in my head. Some of the most frustrating things that ever happen to me is when I'm in a dream and I'm writing something really beautiful, and I'm reading it and writing it, and the words are appearing to me, and I wake up and I can't keep those words in my mind. And I'm like, you scratch your balls or whatever, and you're like, oh, fuck. And it's like, and you're like, oh, fuck, what was that thing? And you're like, and it's gone, And maybe it's a good thing, because sometimes you can, even if you do write it out, it doesn't seem the same when you write it out as it did in the dream, just seems, like, what are you on, drugs or what? But there's something else going on. And as a writer, like, it's, the words are important, but it's like, it's about the spirit behind them. Something just happened when I said that. It's also about the spirit behind them. And the creative spirit, that great spirit everyone talks about, connected to your emotions and your instincts. Like, I don't think anyone I ever talked to who came up to me, say I was sitting here, and they said, oh, great master, we'd like to talk to you. Because that's just a fun thing for me to imagine. If you've been in cults, like, at some point you want to be the cult leader, right? It's like, all right, I'll be the cult leader. It's like, oh, great master. Have you had a decent enough bowel movements today? Yes, thank you for asking. Tell me about the Great Spirit. I think heaven needs a Great Spirit. And in the greatness of our spirit, we live in heaven. We live in heaven in the greatness of our spirit. And you can tell that. That's something, a connotation you could take even from religions. Like, heaven is a place for the greatness of your spirit. Now, they make up all kinds of weird shit about what that greatness looks like. That, to me, takes away from the greatness of your spirit. You know, and here's what I mean by that, is that the greatness of your spirit is a completely natural inhabitant of heaven. And so you don't call anything heaven unless you feel like a completely natural, safe inhabitant of that place. A home is not heaven for a child, but that their mind is a completely safe inhabitant of that place. Now you can see where you can go with that, right? Now a child's brain can make that heaven if, in retrospect, it wasn't as heavenly as it should be for the totality of that mind. In other words, children really present heaven more so to their home than their home presents heaven to that child's mind. And the child mind could make a heaven out of hell. That later looks as though, as they get older, they're making a hell out of what was heaven. But in fact, it wasn't heaven to all the levels of their brain, because it wasn't emotionally, instinctually, and cognitively sound. And it is terribly unsound in a way that isn't considered immoral, because it's just what is unsound about the pain that attended the development of the brain of your mom and dad, and has attended their life, that, you know, part of their strength in the world is just putting up with each other or the pain of the world, which they look at you and say, hey, that's no big deal. You need to get out there and, you know, conquer those lions. And you're like, all my life you've shown me all this incredible pain when you're not around people, and your different changing of your moods and your anger and the alcohol, the way you talk about each other, the way you talk to your children, the way you've talked to me, or the way you've hit me or threatened me physically. Like, I don't think that just attacking the world the way you do is really sound. And you're telling me you may be the king of my life or the queen of my life, but you're not sound, and I don't believe you. I'm not that stupid. You may be all I've ever known. Maybe you can destroy me. Maybe you can kill me, and my parents have tried. But I'm not going to fucking completely give up my entire fucking mind to your sickness. I'm not going to be a part of that which does what you do to other people. Yes, yes, it is. Oh, it is so. When asked by GQ, how do you fuck a piece of driftwood? And I said, I don't really fuck the driftwood so much as I let the driftwood fuck me. Oh, you are so wise. Yeah, GQ, come on, bring it on, baby. Yeah, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, motherfucker. Sometimes a cigar-shaped UFO is just a cigar-shaped UFO. It's not my penis flying through 1939 Germany and suggesting that Hitler and Eva Braun run off and learn how to have normal sex. Hi there, Mr. Crab. This is my friend on the show here. Show. It's fun calling it a show. It's like it's entertaining or something. It's like, on this show, parts of this tree are going to impale me. The show sort of makes it seem like there's something that should be interesting to you. There's like an exhibition of some kind. There's something going on, something charming, something to draw you away from your daily cares and into a realm where it's possible to start feeling like you could probably be happy again, and maybe one day you'll have sex. Ever. Yeah, that'd be a good show. Hey, a show for chronic masturbators who've never had sex. Hey, on this show today, we're going to talk about vaginas. Now, vaginas are pretty disgusting. Yeah, disgusting. Ooh, no one touch one of them. Oh. And yet, all of you masturbate to online porn. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Well, I mean, it's cleaner. You don't really smell them, do you? That's not communicated through digital media. Imagine if you could communicate smell. You could like, whoa, look at this one, man. You put the nose things in and it digitally communicates smell. Whoever figures out how to do that is going to make a mint. Because now that's your fucking virtual reality. It's like you're doing like virtual reality porn and you're like, smells like pussy around here. Like, there it is. This one's called Legs Suddenly Spread, Head Pushed Between Legs. Man snuffs and licks a muff unlike any he's smelled and licked before. And you're like, yeah, that's $19.99 a second. Here we go. Rich men become poor at the emporium of virtual sex. But I guarantee you, for men like myself who are basically chronic masturbating virgins, is at the age of 48, and I got a new stalker, found out about a new stalker yesterday. They've been stalking me for a while, I guess. Shit, that's gross. Oh, just made me sick. I've literally had enough. It's like every fucking female that I meet is so fucking sick. The stories I could tell. Anyway, and, well, this is a good position. That's what he said. Is that for a lot of men, or probably chronic masturbators, is that it's safer that way. The same reason women are single. They've had violence. You know, a lot of women that I've met who are always single have grown up in alcoholic families. And you would have to, find out their needs. Find out if they had these special needs or what the boundaries are really. I mean, does this whole relationship get to be about your problems? No offense, but and a lot of women end up needing the whole relationship to be around them. They don't think of it that way. They just think of it as a healthy relationship. And so if you try to disturb it, you become a cunt. Because they think a healthy relationship is deciding everything themselves. Because the answer to every abused child is to control everything. Right? Or to fulfill a very profound, lingering desire to control things, because, in a sense, their pain has so much control over their brain. So what kind of fulfillment are you going to find in that unless you forfeit certain things. They become like a woman is like a walking Catholic church. Like a vat into which you have to pour more and more of your attention. And the thing is that you generate more energy to give her every day because you get to sleep and eat. And pretty soon, around a lot of women, you're basically the man has to give their entire life. He sleeps, he eats, he gets what chance he gets, and then gives her everything, everything, everything. And she walks around telling people, I give so much to the men in my life. I think I give them way more than they deserve. I'm always giving, giving. I'm never getting anything back. I think I need more. And who talks like that? Think about it. The government. Women, narcissism, schizophrenia, violence, government, feminism, government, right? It's all about women doing violence to men. Always. Their entire sense of reality means that men can A, never satisfy them, and B, always need to be treated as though they're taking too much from women. Poor people are treated like they're taking too much from the government that's collecting trillions of dollars more than it even tells you about or you bother looking into. But apparently, we're these debt sinners that are just, and the debt is just increasing, and women are going, we're just getting more raped every day. We need more extra things for women. It's getting raped more and more. And you probably are. You're practically making it inevitable. Because if you keep taking things from men, and you don't give men a chance, give them a generation to think about what they want to give you. And think about what you can do to look at what every man has to offer you. Give them a chance to offer something to you. I make no ovations to women. They approach me. And I don't necessarily think I'm an approachable or a person worth approaching. That's not the point. I just don't want to be approached. Smoking up a storm here. It's interesting what I have to say. Look, the sun's just, I got out there, I got some sun, now I've got the sun really coming right in. There's a chemtrail in front of it, but otherwise it's good. Take this hat off for a second because it's getting sunlight. Mm. And I'll probably come here tomorrow too. And that sun's going to come right through the trees now. And I'm going to be in my heaven, baby. I've done a lot of treatments of women over the last few weeks. I'm able to, I've talked about a lot. In every facet that I'm obliged to talk about. There isn't a viable conversation to be had with a woman about violence to women um, from anyone, men or women, and violence to men from men or women in society, in culture, in the world, and how that connects to various things. Not even homosexuality per se. Like I now have done enough study to like you can put homosexuality to one side. So if you're out there and you're homosexual, but I'm putting that to one. This isn't really part of the discussion. Do your thing. Not. It deserves to be protected for the sanctity of your sex, right? But that what I see on TV and what I see in human behavior is a kind of perverse omnisexuality. People, often homosexual tending, who don't seem to know what they are, and hurt a lot of other people. That's, a lot of what I used to mean when I said I don't like homosexuality is that. It's not fair to necessarily peg the homosexual or this or that, but humans in the sex spectrum of human beings, clearly we could make the case respectfully that the area of sex and love, for that matter, is an area where a lot of people end up getting hurt. Is that fair to say? I think I've made my point there, and then it's like, I don't think it makes sense to include and target homosexuals, say, over straight people in the perversities of which the human race is capable of. But I do also personally, honestly, reserve a lot of judgment for homosexuals I've known or homosexuality, in that what I've seen of it, I haven't seen what I would call the real homosexuality. The homosexuals that I've met, I'm seeing something else going on, that I don't like. And it's certainly not restricted to homosexuals themselves, but it's like, because I'm not homosexual and I don't know a lot of people, and I grew up, one of my best friends was homosexual, but he wasn't. He was impotent. You know, I was one of his best friends, so I knew that. I knew, like, he didn't have to tell me. You just kind of know. And I also kind of knew in ways that he behaved. It was like there were things that just really stood out that I can see in my mind and go, oh, okay. Because both the young boys I knew that were homosexuals, they were, and I think one more, but he's actually married to a woman now, but they were always unnecessarily aggressive to me in ways that really stood out, that nobody else was. I didn't understand it. Really stood out. Like, they had a point. Like, in 3 cases, they really had a point they wanted to make to me, which was like, I hate you. You know, my brothers at that age weren't doing that. It was like, but it was like a really natural, just the way when women get angry at me, like, they really were very passionate about proving that I wasn't as good as people thought I was in some way. Strange thing up, when I grew up in elementary school, I was never jealous of anyone because I didn't want to be there. It wasn't a game I wanted to play. I guess if I was jealous of anyone, I guess it would be people who weren't terrified to be there, but I would say, however you are in school, you're forgiven for being a weirdo, because it's a weird place. And I think it affects us more than we think. I think school affects people more than they think. And you have a couple ways at least you can go. You can say school prepares people for the world, and that's what they do. And it's not always easy, but that's what it does, and that's what it has to do, and that's what it does for them. On the other hand, you could say, in an in-between way, you could say, the means of organized education, as laudable or imperative as it may be for health and society and all these things, um, is able, for all those reasons, to exert a persuasive dominance over children, right? And now you start going into the sort of the other side of the argument. But like with feminism, you haven't destroyed the system and you haven't ignored the reasons why people like it. You're just sliding into, well, if we know that all these things are true, then people can often be persuaded to understand or appreciate, like they already sort of know, as long as they know you're not going to beat them over the head, that to organize a way to, teach everyone to write and print and know what the capital city of the country is and learn how to interact with people and maybe, get some sex going on or whatever you're supposed to fucking do in high school. I have no idea what sex was supposed to be in high school, because I don't know how anyone can feel sexy in high school. It doesn't seem like a very sexy place. To me, a sexy place would be like running through the forest and building castles and flags and singing great odes to each other's incredible, youthful, wild beauty. you know, that would be a natural environment. Playing hide and seek and then going up behind her and going, hey, I'm starting to like what's happening with your rear end. What do you say we play doctor? My name is Dr. Landon. Get away from me! What are you doing? Um, no, I didn't have that interaction with girls growing up. So I felt lucky, like I could put that to one side anyway. Like, aren't those years nice when there's no sex function really happening, as far as you know? Like, it's still there. It's part of your life. It's nascent or insouciant or whatever, but and it has all kinds of numinous things which allow us as human beings, even post-sex, in a sense, post-sex development, of saying,
that's why you can have children, hopefully. And I don't think people should be with other people's children, but teachers and stuff. But that's why you can have children, because you can see that all that creativity and that life that you wanted to hump the mother of your children, and you thrust your dick into her, and it was good. And now you got this child, and it's like you're not thinking about like that night when you humped her to make this beautiful creation. All of your millions of senses and your child senses are focused on the environment in a way that's really has nothing to do with sex, and yet it's the very apotheosis of it. It's the most celestial, numinous array of creative, alert attentiveness to the beauty of the unfolding of the creation, as it comes to bear upon a father and their child upon the world upon them. You have this amazing love, admiration, and sense of duty and obligation, and frustrations that come with that, no doubt, of having a child. Sex is the last thing on your mind, but it's not. It's still represented. You're not. You obviously, as a father, you still have sex function, right? But to someone who's never had sex, and to someone who grew up and really the part of your life where there was no sex was the safest part of your life, and that unbeknownst to you in a conscious sense, the people you were close to were changing in very perverse ways when the sex function started coming online. That indicated that the environment before that was probably unnecessarily stressful, but that all of these things, even as a child, you can see in the older people around you are being incorporated inutterably. It's not being attended to by any scientist. No one's coming to ask you about your observations of, is there any, the government's not sending people to measure, see if there's elevated levels of aggression, for instance, in people's homes or at school. And that all elevated aggression would be dealt with in an extremely compassionate, competent, scientific way. Because as soon as you see aggression among children, you would know that there's actually a bigger problem than you think. It's very, I think, a lot of people who are around children education, when you see aggression or anything like that among children, you're seeing something that's a million times worse. Like, children would never normally be aggressive to each other. It's totally not normal. Either siblings to each other. It's not. There's nothing really to say that there's normal to be aggressive. That's something that, well, it's in the Bible in a sense, but it's also what happens when you are applying an inappropriate influence over one or more of your children's minds, perhaps with respect even to their gender, and very likely the case. That's why there's violence. And it's time people started telling people, you know, like, you take away the aggression, hey, it's heaven on earth. You have prerogatives as a parent. They're your children. You love them. No one's going to tell you how to talk to your child. It has to be done properly. Everyone has needs. Everyone has emotions. Everyone has to be respected. Because any healing where you don't respect everyone involved, even an abusive parent, is not going to work. Families that are abusive are not as abusive when they're on vacation and having fun, when they're at Disneyland, when they're relaxed. Doesn't mean they're not abusive, but it's like you relax, a family gets a windfall, an inheritance. Maybe there's a little period where the abuse stops for a little while, but it's only for a little while. Because violence and dependency, whether there's a particular addiction in the family, are related. The dependency comes in the mind making decisions in what might as well be like a virtual reality, because it's making decisions with a mind that's kind of moving around and at the impotence of a lot of unresolved pain and stress that can come out as how you love your child and how you treat your child, and whether or not you can see and listen to what your child is showing you and telling you. And that's scary for your child. That's terrifying. That is what can cause any kind of disease in the world, or mortification or death or accident to your child. Which is why I say when you see aggression in children, it's a lot bigger than you think it is. And we should be painting the world red and amber and just putting armies of specialists on the subject immediately, and you would relieve at the grassroots level all crime in the world. We could do that. We have the science, we have the information ability, we have all the expertise to do that. But it's not happening. You've got people building conspiracy theories and Venus projects and, zeitgeist, and we're going to do this to the world. We're going to do this. We've got food and Marxism. It's going to happen. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The whole race is living around this white elephant. It's an austerity that has grown up like the goose that laid the golden egg around all of the violence that man has sustained over the last 1,000 years. All of our loyalty, all of our training, everything that we just allow to kind of gut each other fucking out unnecessarily, because children, for one, and humans in general, are so fucking forgiving. Which is why I kind of choke on my own fucking Adam's apple when someone starts talking about people needing to be more forgiving. I think, who the fuck is more forgiving than a victim of violent abuse? Like, you've got all my fucking forgiveness, motherfucker. I got nothing left to give you. You fucking took it and then sucked the fucking life out of me, you piece of shit. Forgiveness is I don't fucking kill your ass. Now, there's a guy, what is his name? Tinfoil Hatter? Hello? No disrespect. You seem like a nice fellow. Enjoy the channel. You seem like somebody who's seen a few things. We've crossed paths a few times on the internet. You seem like a good bloke. So I hope you're doing well. Sounds like it. Not an easy world, eh? There's not many men who've probably watched more videos than anyone and probably seen me cry and rage. There's not a lot of people who would come back and take more abuse from me, so I'll give you my respect for that. Says something. You deserve some honor. You deserve to be honored for that. Try not to think you have to be terribly verbal with me. You, Tinfoil Hatter, you should have your own channel. I don't know if you do or if you make videos, and you should. You have enough to say. You could do that. I get the feeling you're someone who has a lot to say, and I'm not saying like in a condescending sense, like you're not already expressing yourself exactly as a man as you see fit, and why would I pick on that? I found in my life that there are people who I suspect probably have never thought, despite having a lot of wisdom and knowledge, that it's worth saying it or communicating it out loud, or that other in a way that someone else might hear it. And if you've never thought about that, you should think about that. You would really fucking enjoy it, because it's like knowing how to play the fucking Stradivarius, and you don't ever play it. Just to hear the sound of it in your own mind. Like, you've got all the instruments are there. You don't have to edify anybody. You don't have to tell people where the bodies are buried. You don't have to masturbate or, fuck children on camera. You don't have to break any laws. You just have to break the silence a little bit. That's like I said, I really highly recommend journaling to other people, especially really intelligent people who are very vocal, who enjoy the verbal realm, which, strangely enough, not everybody does. Some people are more physical, Doesn't mean they don't have all the verbal skills in the world. It's just they don't spend a lot of time in a verbal dominant environment. There isn't any conflict between the two types of people unless somebody decides to be a douche. If someone says to me, hey man, you don't work enough and you just talk too much about shit and stuff, they're not really criticizing what I'm saying or anything. That's not what it's really about, is it? It's not about me, I'm unemployed or I'm sitting in the woods. I don't get this too much anymore, but it's not about that. Even Chief Dan George had that kind of thing happen to him. That's not what it's about. That's just about somebody being upset and needing someone to take it out on. Yeah, life sucks, fuck you, kind of thing. And that happens. But it is also remarkable what people pick on, when they decide, like a police officer, no offense to police, but, they sometimes just have to drum things up. And it's like, I'm sure that, like anyone, like I would, if I was them, I'm sure I would change my script to suit whatever kind of person I was approaching. If the windows are tinted, I'd be like, hey man, you get those hands on the wheel. Have you got that tint approved by the state of Iowa? It's a little too black for my liking. You know what I mean? It's like, they're like, dude, like, are you on crack? It's like, are you disrespecting my authority? Are you resisting the arresting way with which I speak myself? What the fuck? Dude, nigga, get off. Step off. Get into your blue ball little motherfucking chariot and find some other nigga to pick on. And it's like, I think you're just using an excuse to say the N-word. I'd like you all to step out of the vehicle because I want to sniff your asses. We don't need the dog. I like to do it myself. I kind of envy dogs for being able to sniff other dogs' asses because they seem very satisfied. Seriously, once you start noticing, like, it's true, like dogs are nose, eyes, ears. Is it? Or is it nose, ears, eyes? Anyway, smell dominant. And they do, that's how they say hi. Like you might say, hey to a dog, but don't look at them. Don't reach out. Let them smell you first. That's what dogs do. Snogs don't walk up and fucking start putting their paws on each other. That's a fight, right? They smell each other first. They turn around. Just let them smell you. It's not rude for a dog. It's just rude for people. Just stand there, just ignore them and let them smell you. You know? That's what dogs do. They just want to smell you. That's how they say hello. Now, a really friendly, happy-go-lucky dog will just come up, and it's like the smell will be like a formality. It's like sniff, sniff, but they'll just like get their head up and be like, "Yeah, I can smell you later, dude. I just want to be your best friend right now. Lick, lick." But for a lot of dogs, it's just, they check you out. And there's nothing in the dog world that's rude about that. It's just common, you know. And what a natural policing system. Like, they're always checking, in a dog world, they'd always be checking each other out. So as soon as some dog lost their nut, they're like, rah, 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 this one's fucked. What the fuck is wrong with you? The alpha dog comes along, fucking bites him in the neck, picks him up, throws him out of the dog park. It's like, everyone's happy again. Because the animal world knows that there are certain weaknesses that can spread through a pack. And it creates a discomfort. Like, animals are good at being calm and alert, but if they can't be, it means there's something wrong. So if you are living in a home where you can't be calm and grounded and alert, something's wrong, isn't it? At an instinctual level. If you live in a town and you feel, or just never in your life in general, depending between work and home and everything else, that you've never felt really comfortable, safe, calm, and alert. And that a lot of times if someone new is introduced to your home or into your acquaintance, they make you feel unsafe, or you feel like the way the world is in what is considered courtesy or not, or this doesn't feel right to you. And I'm telling you, there's a reason for that. Is that the language and religion of the world has been created or corrupted, or it's conceited. In other words, no language and no culture in the world is really truly strictly in high fidelity with what you need as a human animal at an instinctual emotional level. In a sense, you can feel like everyone is just lying, you know, and just playing up and playing a role. Like it's all been very contrived. Humans could be cultural in the sense that people around, but like everyone is basically forced into being what they are. The language itself and the way it's spelled and the way the subconscious is just fields a barrage of strangely violent suggestions, I would say, through all religion, culture, and language in the world. You know, feminism doesn't even go far enough, but I understand that feminism has gone a little deeper into the neurolinguistic programming of the species culturally. And you have to look at all kinds of stuff. Like, you know, it's like, wow, you gotta look at the need to survive. Like, you challenge someone's need to survive, their fear, you know, that keeps you in your body and keeps you alive and keeps you doing whatever the fuck you need to do. Can't challenge that in people. And when people are violent, there is a need for survival that's being threatened that has been adopted or become effectively natural in stressful or violent conditions. This is clear clinical research. We know this for a fact. No bar fight ever goes on except someone's, what amounts to their survival capacity has been threatened, in that everything about who they are is to survive. And that's been threatened. And in any way that people are threatened, legitimately or in any other way, that it's those other things too that will escalate violence. In that what now we're talking about is a survival need, and it may not look like a need at all. You're not going to really get that out of the situation too easily, but that it is of the same power and force as a survival need, commands as much as the brain's superlative priorities, or as though, as you start to read in the roots and provocations of violence in particular, becomes what would be called a compulsion. It's actually something the person does that is particularly difficult to think of as something that someone needs to do. You can look at God in the Bible, killing and killing and killing. It's very hard to think that God, as the definition by definition of love and morality and everything else, at best needs, or love and the balance of the universe needs to kill all these people. Or that we think back on the billion plus people killed in World War I and II and the like, needed to be killed that way. You know? Or all the babies that are aborted need to be aborted. Something about the world just needs to abort them. That needed to happen. And we say there is obviously some kind of reason. It's just not polite and it's not nice and it's not easy. But in a world full of millions of people with competing industrial forces, of all kinds of access to munitions and able to get millions of their people to think shit that people like you would never believe, but these motherfuckers are just going to kill us if we don't bomb them into the fucking Stone Age. And that happens in the human mind and can be completely contrived. Should fucking make you stay awake tonight, fucking sweating your balls off. But that's the world we live in. Whew. It's amazing people aren't fucking killing each other every fucking day. And that is the incredibleness of human beings that we don't even get to acknowledge, because people can't acknowledge the dark aspect of it. But really, the full acknowledgement of humans should be, hey, everyone, thanks for not killing someone in the last 24 hours. Because thanks for not being a douche to anybody for the last 24 hours. Thank you so much for that. When I deal with psychotics in and around my building or my life, you're always just looking for whatever you can acknowledge that's positive about them. That's all they can handle. You can't criticize these motherfuckers, and they're not going to learn anything from you. There's nothing you can do. It's like, it's better for them, their children, and their dogs to go, hey, you're the best. Ooh, you're the best mother ever. Ooh. That's, it's at least going to like make it maybe a little tiny bit of an easier day for their children or the person who has to depend on this psycho's fucking state of mind in any given minute. Because they're just, you can tell that people are just probably very difficult to deal with. So when I make videos, I can just, nobody's getting hurt in the making of this video. We're just talking very, very realistically, extremely realistically, from a place of incredible knowledge and honesty. That's what we're doing. And if you can't see that, there's something wrong with you. In as much as the world wants you to believe that if you can see that, there's something wrong with you. And there's something wrong with that, you see. It's not all the way wrong. It's not, you wouldn't say like, well, what kind of wrong do you mean? Like, start building letter bombs and sending them to the Senate? No. Start urinating on children? No. Start using your penis to attract small penguins and sodomize them? No. God, man, no. I'm just talking. It's like I always found in life that dark things are really important to acknowledge about human beings. Otherwise, life really won't be worth it anymore. It doesn't matter what you believe, it doesn't matter what religion you're in. Unless you talk about the dark things, you're fucked. Just find a quiet place and have a book of witches call it a book of shadows. You know, it's where you do your most powerful spells. It's where you deal with things you can't. If some guy or girl touches you in a place you don't like, you can yell, you can scream, you can do a lot of powerful things that a lot of powerful people or anyone can be taught to do, or you might not be able to do anything. And a lot of sexual violence, it's very uncomfortable, and probably, don't try doing something you can't do. Right? It'll just make it worse. So you freeze or you're quiet and you go off, and that's, I'm not exactly a martial arts master, but that's not a bad way to go for a lot of people who don't know how to fight. It really isn't, right? Live, learn to feel humiliated another day, but you're still alive, right? It's not worse than it was because, you're using virtue there. They're using strength or power of a kind. You're using pure virtue, right? Which is focused on you, which is meeting your primary needs. Right? You can't control someone else's behavior. Someone, for reasons that might have to do with your family or other things in your life that have made you vulnerable to a bully, which is true. But you can't control someone else's behavior. It's shocking outright. It's happening to you. The people right beside you don't know how shocking it is, but you do, and it creates an inertial sort of stab at all of the intimacies of your life because no one's ever going to understand the way you do, the way a certain person manages to abuse you in a single instant. Just by the way they talk to you. Strains the heart. It's poison. You may not be a person inclined to put a lot of words to it, but it hurts. Maybe it hurts later. Maybe it hurts now. Maybe you've been drinking. Maybe it ruins your entire night. And why shouldn't it? Because it's wrong on face value. And when something's wrong among humans, though, and say that person has been allowed to do that thousands of times, and it feels wrong to you. It's like someone's got to show that person not to do that. But it's not going to be you. Not tonight. What you're going to do is you're going to look around you and think, are some of your friends with this person? Do you feel like you can tell them this? And what do you think they'll say? And like I said, it creates an inertial drift because you might say, well, you can't. Don't be a dick about it. I mean, what's it to them? I mean, no one wants to step into your drama. That's just your issue. And, you're probably just making too much out of it. And why make it? It doesn't seem like a big deal. Like what, they didn't punch you. I mean, and this is the way of the society I made up that didn't last very long because its motto was sticks and stones may hurt our bones, but swords will never touch us. Swords will never touch us because words are the most harmful thing. The most harmful, and the easiest to get away with the most harm is through looks and sound and signaling. The sound of my voice is invisible, isn't it? It doesn't leave a lot of evidence. If I want to, I can say something to you that will leave no visible evidence to anyone around you. It'll make you feel like dying. I'm not saying I could do that, but I'd say one could do that. People who are upset with you, they have a way in their tone of voice, you can kind of tell they're upset, right? It comes across through sound. And when someone's upset with you, it just stands to reason they're not going to be very happy about you. Your little boy or girl, burns your checkbook, burns your check,
does something that means you're going to have to return embarrassingly back to the office you just left in a smoke of glory when you were fired yet, or you quit yesterday because your little girl left your keys in the corner of the room where she was playing with herself. You're like, I'm just coming back to get my keys. Mm-hmm. And, you don't love that little girl, that little boy that day. You're like, you turn your cheek to them. You're like, I don't know you. You're not my child. You have now just brought nothing but baleful difficulty into my existence. You have ceased to be useful. Who is that child I loved before? You think nothing of me as a woman, as a mother. You didn't think about what it would be like for me to return there when you were playing with my keys. And so children do get roped into dramas which they have no control over. And you think, well, if you're going to have a child, you're going to be really mad at your child at some point, probably. Because, they're like the deer. I can follow their deer trails, but they're not really meant to take me to safety everywhere that they go. They just go the way that's safe for them. So I've gotten to places on deer trails where it's like, no, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going here anymore. This is like fun for deer, not for man. She's an empty canvas on top sheets of clay. It was weird. There was that song, and then there was a TV show, I won't say which one, and it talks about women being empty. Women are made to be empty. Okay. I've seen and felt things that make me hate women. And what I'm really hating is the spirit of neglect and the emptiness, often in women, that gets projected onto men. And I'm not really a fan of anyone being empty, but it's better if you just admit to your own emptiness than project it on other people. I would say I have no trouble saying that I have had an emptiness in me in my life. You wanted to look at my daily habits or interest in chocolate at various periods of my life. Yeah, sure. I'm not willing to say that the inner me is completely emptied out of all substance, sustenance, and value, and luxuries and riches. We don't always have access to those riches. It's like the various dooms and abuses of our lives. The richness of our lives, too, to me, is something that can only be accessed with words sometimes. Not just memories, reflections, as though the living essence that still belongs to you of that time and place, it is still here. That smell of rain before a storm is still in you. It's still here. When I see a stream that becomes a trickle in the summer, what is a rush of raucous joy in the winter or in the early spring, it's still there. It's still there. You look into these airy wastes, there is rain here. There is moisture, for one. Humidity tells us that there's all kinds of moisture long before you see what we call rain, which is the form of moisture when it becomes more visible to us. It becomes fleshed out, right? It's a new flesh. It's a new state of heaven. And it's gone from one heaven to another heaven. And now you get the first drops of rain onto the windshield, onto the earth, onto the dry earth, maybe after a prolonged heat. And those plants just... But a lot of plants and a lot of trees, I suspect, don't plan to have a lot of moisture through the summer, respectively. And so, like, the many even sudden showers that may come in summer and late summer, it's not something that the plants have anticipated relying upon. Quite often, I think. It starts to prepare the soil for, hopefully, the moisture that's going to come, and then when the time is right, the trees will start sucking that up again for the next, summer, eventually. Nature always plans ahead. Trees always have enough moisture, as long as there at least enough moisture throughout the year. So here, we don't get, I would say, ever a lot of rain that I think of like days in a row of rain that you would think like, how are these trees really living in what is considered, in a sense, a temperate environment, is that the air is full of moisture, and the world, and by and large, is this part of the world, this region, is filled with water one way or the other throughout the year in great quantities. It finds its way around one or the other. The same stuff in the air that makes me cold, the humidity, in the winter and stuff, that's all moisture. And certainly the rising of the river throughout, say the last part of the winter and the early spring. So the land fills up with so much moisture during the winter that when it does start to rain, the watershed is just full. So you're getting the water just bucket, just torrents of it now coming down the river. And then through the spring and various melting, you get several successions of rising and falling rivers. So there's always water coming through. Well, the whole land gets an amazing drink. It really does. It gets a huge drink, even though overall the average person may not actually see or feel a lot of precipitation. At least just to be able to go, oh yeah, it makes sense to me how these plants are getting all this water that they need. Yeah. So there's knowledge to that. I mean, these trees always have what they need. They're green every year. They could take something from that. Well, I think the tide is now officially in. So that's a certain part of my day done. It's got to be past noon now. That'll be about 1 o'clock at least. And it should be going out soon. Seeing a rock make a face at me, like a native person. The place really loves me. It's nice to be in a place and have it speak to you. The wind, the rhythms of the ocean, and just that's the way to sort of curb the loneliness in a way. It's just to get nourished, for a place to speak to you. It's nice. I don't get spoken to very much in a way that I like. The world doesn't say nice things to me. I don't get a lot of affirmation. People that are just interested in my physical energy. Gross. To me, it's very mannerless for someone to make comments about my physical appearance. It really, really feels gross to me. It's like a form of sexual assault. I had a guy and a woman talk to me that way yesterday. I didn't get mad because I know they didn't really fully mean it, but I don't like being addressed that way. Hello, kind sir, might be more appropriate. I don't make comments about people's physical appearance too much. I've had women that I had a huge attraction to them or whatever, and I have never said anything about them physically, especially if it's a younger woman. It's like, oh, you look nice today. I like the way you've accentuated your cleavage. This Americano is going to taste that much better knowing that your cleavage was involved in its making. If only you could put some milk in it too, that'd be great.
I don't like people making references to my physical appearance. To me, that's always sociopathic. That's not what there is to be communicated between two people who don't know each other well. They've not been sufficiently introduced. Even if you see the person every other day, it's like physical appearance should be completely off the table. I fucking hate it. I hate it. Unless you're in some like particularly distinct uniform, like a clown with balloons, and you're like, oh hey, you're a clown, then your physical appearance would be definitely ripe for comment. If you're wearing a police uniform, or you're wearing a uniform of a convict, and you're like, hey, did you just leave jail? Your physical appearance is telling me something pretty important about you. But other than that, like, people's physical appearance, you don't go up to someone and say, hey, you're fat. So when people mention something physical about me, it feels like rape. A stranger talking about my hair or my body or something I'm wearing, it's like, it's rape. I had a woman tell me that I should brush my hair more or something. It was just like, oh my God, what's the fuck is wrong with you? And these are the verbal things that people can get away with, right? But to me, it's no different than sexual assault. It is sexual assault. It makes me uncomfortable. That's sexual assault. Ugh, it gives me nausea. I feel like I need to vomit. We got to be happy, Bobo. Babishka, we got to be happy. Babishka, why are you not happy? Wish my mom was like an Italian mother, like, why are you not happy, Landon? You need a woman? I get you woman. I get you prostitute. Your birthday. I think people's opinions matter. When people bring up my physical appearance, it's never a good thing. Ever. A lot of people get away with it, I guess, in their daily life. I think people have talked about my hats, my this, my that. It's never a good thing. Never. The rare occasion I get a compliment, I still don't consider that a good thing. I'm like, they're picking on something that has very little to do with me as a pretext to talk to me. And it's like, why not have the intelligence, or if you want to recommend yourself to me in some way, Why don't you use your intelligence and show me how smart you really are? Find something intelligent to say. Just to be, if a woman wants to approach me, why not say something intelligent? Say, time is a many splendored thing. Right? That's more intelligent than every fucking woman in my life put together. You have no fucking creative energy. Women are just completely spent. They're impotent. I don't include the stuff you do because you're trained or, what about the wild you? What's the part of you that goes off somewhere by yourself, anywhere, and tries to figure out how to explain this crazy world to themselves in a way they can be happy with, at least just for today? Because that's really living. I mean, in a way, your life is the answer. Aren't you at least as important as a tree? A tree is the answer to the question of life. Why should stuff live instead of die? Ask a tree. Why doesn't a tree just die? Why does it keep growing? I mean, does it have a life? Do you want to be a tree? It doesn't get to move around anywhere. But the thing is, it's everything around a tree is moving and changing constantly. A tree must be very happy with that. If you keep track of everything changing every day, the toilet paper is getting lower, coffee grinds are getting lower, gas tank is getting lower, everything is changing. You're having the best time of your life yesterday, but you almost ran out of gas. Because lo and behold, it doesn't last forever. It should. It probably could, but it doesn't. It's okay, everyone. I just had to urinate. Urination was successful. Oh. So I was sexually assaulted yesterday, but I will never walk by that woman's house again. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. There's no point. As long as she lives there, I'm never going to walk down there again, and it's where, just walk around somewhere else. No, just never. Ugh, what a gross feeling. And there was two of them. When there's more than one, too, it's like, it magnifies the energy. And I think the guy, he looked like he felt like he was doing something wrong. I don't think people really know who they're dealing with until they start dealing with me. I look like a cat, and then I turn into a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I think people who yell at me and talk to me like You just have to talk to a customer representative to most, if not all, companies when they've made a clear blunder of some kind to see that most people of any age, wherever they're hired, are incredibly good at bullshitting people and themselves. So look for any reason why people close to them, like their mommy and daddy, didn't do anything wrong, even at the expense of reoffending the victim. It happens all the time. To the point, like, it's really not worth being offended anywhere. It's not worth. That's why a lot of people, I think, especially in this region, don't complain about things because they know there's no point. Like, white people have passive aggression down to like a laser light point. They practically have like death lasers coming out of them, especially women at all times. But yeah, I won't be walking by there. Ooh, I'm trying not to think about it. The grossest thing that's happened to me in a long time. Ugh. The weak people, weak Europeans. I like strong Europeans. But I like the fact that I could see the look on his face after he bothered me. He really regretted it instantly. There's a man who can at least correct his instincts a little bit. No, so it's like, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off. Ugh, I can feel her energy. What these women don't realize is that they're sick. There's a reason why you're living in that house, and the reason why the only time you see me is when you're outside smoking, right? Which you obviously do quite often, which is disgusting. I don't smoke cigarettes. That stuff can take you down. Women like that can affect your life. No wonder I've always been so glad to get by that house. Even though she's kind of nice, like to say hello or chat a little bit, or this, that, or the other, but just to be polite, because it's better to be on friendly terms with someone who has to see you all the time. But it's not worth it. Fuck, women are disgusting. Fuck, you're disgusting. You're fucking disgusting, nauseating. That woman shouldn't even have sex. Are you telling me? Sick. Ugh. Ugh. Sicko. We'll call her the blonde sicko. And as a man, you're usually just happy, like, as long as you think that I'm okay. I'm passing by your house. That's your territory. It's like, I'm just glad you think I'm okay. Now it's like you want to hump me. You want my dick in your vagina, and you just thought you needed to let me know that. It's like, fuck you ugly piece of shit. Right. As long as there's an alternate path I can go around her house, I don't have to go by there. So it's like, fine. I've often thought like I would deviate at some point, so it's like, okay, I can just sort of walk through, around. I'm just planning it in my head, so I'll come down here, go down here, and just go. Every single woman I ever know who knows me at all, who I see any kind of, basically, any woman who knows me at all, and any woman who sees me regularly will eventually sexually assault me. It's like I want to I want to make a textbook, and that'll be like a principle. Someone can make a fancy name for it because Any woman in this region, call it what you want, any woman who either gets to know me at all or sees me regularly and or will eventually sexually assault me. Every fucking female my entire fucking life. Every fucking time. Every fucking time. So that's want to know why I don't have girlfriends. You want to know I've never had sex? That's why. What do you have to do? I've never had an intelligent discussion with a woman. Do any of you know how to talk to a man at all? Can you really talk to us like we're fucking people? Like, I want to protect my balls like you want to protect your fucking uterus, right? Mutual fucking quid pro quo. You want to protect your fucking uterus. I'm trying to protect my fucking balls, right? Let's meet like two fucking generals on the field of battle and just put your fucking sword down. You know what I mean? Hello, hello, sniff, sniff, whatever, go our fucking way. Unless you have something to talk about. Something really important to the vast scheme of my fucking existence that you think I need to hear it. Maybe make a haiku. I'll be like, oh, great man of heaven, how I want to stroke thy phallus and put your sheath in my cocksucker. Something. Anything. You want something from me, give me something. Give me something to go on. Tell me something about your fucking mind that I should fucking pay attention to. Give me something. Give me fucking something. I worked my whole fucking life to make my mind worth something to somebody. And I dare not presume. But if you're going to presume upon me, you give me some fucking piece of your mind that I might fucking delight in. Make some fucking effort, think about it, get a piece of paper and a fucking abacus, whatever you fucking need. Women who produce apparently so much shit for everyone that we should be so thankful for these fucking cunts and everything that they do, no matter what it is. Even if they're hurting somebody. You tell me something that I fucking need to know. Make up a little song. Make a circle that's like got a cross in the middle and a picture of Hibu Jibu. I don't care. Something that does something delightful for me that lets me know you give a fuck about me as a human fucking being and a man. But women can't do that. I think it violates their vaginal code of conduct or something. It's a bad faith arrangement. Women never have to prove themselves to us. They just have to be interested and vulnerable. You gotta give me something. You gotta give me something. Just putting it out there to the ethers. It's like, give me something. Say, hey, I'm not just a pretty face. I've looked at my fair share of wide horizons. I've contemplated the birth of the sun in the east and its setting in the west. I have contemplated a wizardry that could work through time almost as well as our own birth and the heavens from whence we swim, go from one ocean into another. And so do we leave this world from one ocean into another, and everything is made sound in our departure as in our arrival. It's everything in between that gets unsound. Our mind is sound. Our mind is soundness incarnate in heaven on the earth. Your mind is sacrosanct. It is sound. It is but for you to give the right sounds to your mind. People talk about saying the name of their God or the name of their philosophy. Let's find the right sound for our minds. That our mind is so sound that all we need is the right sounding words and we've got our mind identified. Oh, great and wonderful mind. Write an ode to your mind. Your mind is sound. What more is there to do? You can't make your mind more sound than it already is. It's not about reinventing the mind or the soundness of your mind. It is as sound as these stones as this log, as this sky, as these heavens. Your mind is as sound as all of eternity has ever been. It is already sound. It is but for you to make that sound. Capture the soundness of your mind. Do you know the soundness of your mind? Have you felt it? Freed from all religion, of all compulsion, of all compunction. Is it just this little mind that all this fuss is about? Or am I a Shakespearean actor on loan from Summerstock on Manhattan Island? And ever since I was married to Sylvia, my sister, she's had my balls in a vice. For as long as there have been men, their balls have been in vices. As long as there have been women, there's been new petticoats and constantly new pairs of shoes. Shoes make women happy. To understand a woman's mind, you must understand a woman's relationship to shoes. I have not completed my study, but I think it makes her feel like she's protected and magical. Because that's the way women like to dress, with magical charms and smells that protect them, but are magical and tend to err on the side of being very generous as to the warmth and beauty and suppleness of the richnesses therein. For a beautiful woman, it is hard for her to cover it up. For an ugly woman, it is easy for her to mislead you. That she but be sufficiently cunning in the many charms which she powders her nose with. For it is sometimes the less beautiful women which like to learn the arts of seduction. And there are many ugly women who know how to seduce a man. Dominance is their way. And for those who do not practice dominance, it's not your way. It's not a language you really speak. But you can go to a foreign country where you don't speak the language and someone can still rape you. Not speaking the language doesn't protect you from the language. And let that be a lesson to you. And the predator will say, "Oh, I think you were speaking my language just fine." You'll say, "I'm not speaking that language." "Oh, yes, you are. Haha. And I'm going to speak it back to you, believe me, 10 times fold." Because the predator speaks the language of domination much better than you do. And they accuse you of it. And they will convict you of all of its madness and evil and naivety and weakness. They will convict you for their own weakness to make themselves strong. And to be in a relationship with such a sick person means that something or someone always needs to be destroyed. And in any relationship, prospectively, but at least with certain people, only one person has to be dominated. I haven't investigated the roots of this disequilibrium that is kind of put into the category of codependency, survival dependency, and stuff like that. But what codependency is just another word for domestic violence. And I've been on the receiving end of it all of my life, so I think my compassion and forgiveness has been tested enough that I can sit out here at any day and just enjoy the fruits of the earth's labors. You know, the tide is coming in just at the right time. The air is moving around whenever way it needs to. The sun, chemtrails, they all have their place. I'm not too cold.
I gotta drink more water. I've already gone through. I've gone through almost 2 joints now. I'll have to get going before the tide goes out. The tide hopefully is going out. I don't know. That's all right. This piece of wood up here looks like a giant dildo, and it doesn't look like it'd be fun either. Or just a very short, stubby sword. Kind of see like a rhinoceros, like the face of the sun. That's it. The sun's mouth is open, and it's like putting out this whole tree-like thing. And what is the animal for today? I forget. Dolphin, right? Dolphin breath. I was reading about dolphin breath and the power of communication and sound and signaling and patterns and how this connected us to creation. It's like sound, patterns, rhythm, communication through sound, patterns, and rhythm connects us to creation, connects us to nature, connects us to what is considered like the sacred dimension of the earth, or the sacred time, or the dream time. Magical places that we've always found ourselves when we found ourselves safe, warm, and magical in nature. And that's all it took. Another day of safety, no injury, and putting another day between me and another nauseating stalker female in my environment, and putting another day after that, and just it's how sometimes I know my life. It's like how many days or how many years since this person attacked me, and there's always somebody new. They just have to have a vagina. It's like the vagina violence. Things with vaginas are not very nice to me. I wish people just didn't have vaginas anymore. I'm not sure if it's the vagina that does it, the breasts, conditions, the fact they didn't have a good crap that day. I don't know. They're never really particularly healthy people. I would say people who are sexually abusive, stalkers, things like that. People who prey on me. I always felt really generous or thankful to this woman. I go by her house because I didn't really want to give her that much attention, and she didn't seem to mind. Because there's really nothing to talk about. When I talk to her, I don't really like the sound of her voice very much. I just get the feeling that conversations would be difficult. And the fact that she lives right there at the edge of the park and I've never seen her walking around the park just tells me that she's just kind of lazy. And how women can have these obvious character flaws and things like that, but they still relying upon, I guess, whatever beauty they had maybe 20 years ago. And they think that you're just going to get all over it because, they have a vagina. And why don't you hop on me? I'm just a kitty. It's just, ugh. I have no real, credible, viable knowledge of women and sex. I've never been around a woman, who ever seemed to behave normally to me on any level since I was a child. And to be around a female that just acted like a fucking normal person would just be the most amazing thing in the world. They are the healthier women, for sure. Just hear some celestial music. Na 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 na. Oh, na na na. Ooh, sound, dolphin medicine. Jamie Sams, I suggest you check it out. Mm. I read things in that book sometimes, and I get dispirited because I'm always cynical, and I rip things apart that I don't think are accurate enough for my liking. And no matter who it is or when it was written, I always want them to be infinitely knowledgeable, and I hate it when people disappoint me and they believe things that I think are stupid. It just is very disappointing to me when a teacher believes stupid things. Even though like these are things that have been believable to me even before, and you have to see the countervailing evidence, and it's just like it's unfortunate that we can be lied to as human beings, and we can be told magical things or spiritual things quite often if you're out there and feeling a little defensive about your scientific worldview. Let's just go into the realm of spiritual conjecture and hoobie-jooby, but people like children believing in Santa Claus. People pick up things and they believe them, and they're not true. If you want to go on and say, well, there's all kinds of truth to Santa. It's a wonderful thing that truly makes children happy. That's truthful, and all that kind of stuff. So you'd have to look at it from different angles. It's not something you can just throw away. It has value to people. Doesn't mean that it is valuable. Doesn't mean it's not even quite wrong on some level on the darker side. And this is cultural anthropology that you can you can get very frustrated depending on which side of the spectrum you're looking from, because I see all such things, yes, as fundamentally destructive. I do. I think Santa Claus is a destructive entity in the world and speaks of a very destructive way of life. These are incarnations of something that, although you're taught to think of them as happy things, they're a sign of something that's horribly wrong in the world and in the species. Santa Claus is like an antichrist, a harbinger of doom. By the time you've got a fat man like that coming and children are sitting on their lap and you're writing Santa on pleasance under a dying tree, and it's just, you start looking at all of the subliminal aspects of it, and then the music, the government music, especially around World War II, the Bing Crosby, the Christmas music, the Elvis music, everything from Dolly Parton to fucking Do Re Mi. It's just, and don't get me wrong, beautiful music. But Bing Crosby is also Adolf Hitler. And you're like, what? I'm like, I'm dreaming of a supremely white Christmas. You know what I'm saying? And these people have multiple careers. Bing Crosby made a lot of trips to Germany during World War II to shoot and practice and do performances of Hitler. This was like guerrilla theater. And this was turned into reality. The History Network is still covering Bing Crosby's stint as Adolf Hitler. It's just like, this guy must have been like amazingly proud of his work, his achievement. And think of all the people who died. Now you're doing witchcraft the way the world leaders do witchcraft. You're already in on it. Now you're in. You can never go back. You can never go back. So if the mind is repulsed by it, someone's mind will just be like, I'm never going to go near that again, you stupid, crazy person. Fuck off. And you'll never see that person again. Like, see you later. And that's fine. That's a completely peaceful parting. There's nothing, no lingering malice either way necessarily. But if you do hear me, then there's like a great witchcraft. In the I think it's the book of Romans 10. Is it Romans 10? Romans 3 or Romans 10? The book of Romans 3. I can't remember now. I was reading before wiping my ass with it. It's sort of like the note from the publisher, basically a part of the Bible, and where they describe who are the owners of the Word of God and how they can never be unfaithful to their creation, which is basically God. And it's right there, and you thought, isn't this book been studied for 2,000 years, really just 1,000 years, but or 500 years maybe it's been around, but the Gideons put it in every fucking motel room in the world. Like, what is it about this thing? Hey, that seems a bit misleading. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, but I think in many respects it was. When someone decided that they needed Rome to help define the world. Through the Word of God. To train the human mind upon a supremacy in what they continue to think as to their own decisions, as to the nature of reality, and covering many realms, but including even your doubts about your mortality or your goodness or your badness, or whether or not you deserve to be happy, whether or not there was an ordering principle, and how living according to your mass religion kept you clean and your house clean, and was a part of what everyone did to be disciplined and appropriate to each other, and was of the natural and supreme order of the world, lived in your day-to-day existence, and even in your mind, and especially in your mind and your thoughts, and always paying reverence and never using the name of your God in vain. Always coming back to that place of reverence and respect, and doing things every day, if you were lucky, say like a Muslim, praying and giving signs to yourself and that Lord that you are actively in a relationship with them. Allah is like not someone that likes to be neglected. They need to know that you love them. They want you to show them that you love them. And then you'll know that they love you, because you're doing what Allah is telling you to do. In fact, the relationship to Allah is like a lot of men's relationships with women and their mothers. It's women that demand more demonstrative. The whole candy world and Valentine's Day and Mother's Day and the emphasis on these days, and International Women's Day. Like Valentine's Day, International Women's Day, and Mother's Day are basically 3 days totally organized around women. Right? There's like 3 fucking days guaranteed that are basically for women. They're all women oriented. That's 3 fucking days of the year for women. Right? Father's Day, right? 3 fucking days for them. Right? And if you think about it, so is fucking Easter, because they're putting a fucking dude, 3-month-old baby on a cross, because, like, I don't want her anymore. Like, Christ is just an abortion, basically. It's like an afterbirth abortion. The story of abortion, just like the whole Bible, is like the abortion of God aborts his own child. There's a section of the Bible, it's amazing when you use it as toilet paper, and you find out that God actually gives Jesus up as an illegitimate child. It's not really his child. It's right there in black and white. And like, my grandpa read this book. Did you not see this, Grandpa? You bet you if you're not looking for it, you don't find it. They put it right in front of you. Right the fuck in front of you, man. That way, it's not their fault. You ever wonder why people put things in front of you? One is they have to. You can never keep the truth down. You just can't. It's like the more you cover up, the more obvious it's going to be. So you have to make your craft based on that acknowledgement. A good liar has to, in a sense, know the ultimate truth, which is that you can't fucking lie unless you just work a sort of magic to be able to lie, even though that person, in a sense, totally knows the truth. And because they do, right? They're choosing to believe you. So you're better off actually not choosing to believe people, because when you simply believe them, there's more chance of violence in the world. You want to curb violence? Never believe anything anyone says, especially women. They're highly misinformed usually, but they often feel like they know everything. And men as well. Don't trust anybody. I'm telling you, as a professional witch, never trust what people say. Get them to demonstrate their worthiness to be trusted. I don't really know enough about this subject.
I'm like a British nobleman, but a chronic masturbator. These are the paradoxes of my life. Women have paradoxes, so I can have paradoxes. I'm a man of women, a man who could satisfy all the women of the world with one thrust of my penis into the appropriate space of emerald green ethers, which intoxicate my spirit to no end. But nay, I shall not. I shall save it until a moment of such excruciating disquiet I should only be riven by the orgasmic potency of my most pleasurable thrust upon the page, the vellum of a female cerebellum. I like talking to the ladies. I like feeling up their boobies with my words. I like them to think about feeling their boobies while they listen to me. Because it gives me pleasure. Because I'll never see a pair of boobies in my entire life, and I don't want to see yours. And it's not an invitation, but it's like it is fun to think about. Words for boobies. A new program, an outreach program for the Christ Latter-day Saints. Let these words touch your boobies, or touch your boobies while you're listening to these words. Boobies are great. We love our boobies. We do not allow people to do cancer screenings for breast cancer because it's more likely to give you cancer. There you go. Love your boobies. Don't worry about cysts and tumors in your boobies. Rather, love your boobies. It's not a tumor. Touch them right now and go, it's not a tumor. Right? Ugh, who needs that? Who needs filth? You keep filth out of your life and you'll never get cancer. I tell you, I give you that right now. Keep the filth out. Keep the people who deal in filth out of your life. Touch your boobies and go, yeah, you're right. Because when you have a baby, you don't want to squeeze filth into their beautiful mouth any more than you'd squeeze filth into my mouth. What do you think I do if you squeezed filth into my mouth? What do you think your baby will do when they get older? And they look up on the internet, what should I do if my mother squeezed filth into my mouth? And they'll find an entry from me in Wikipedia. It'll be like, if your mother squeezed filth into your mouth, I want you to steal everything in her purse and go get crack and become addicted and make her sad forever. I like to plan for every contingency. Now, if that's not enough to scare you out of doing crack, I'll tell you another story involving cracks. Things I've never really cracked my way into. Not even with an axe. Now you might be asking yourself, what is this thing of which I speak? What is this great crevasse that I have never been able to penetrate? Indeed. Why does no woman speak to me? I think Worf on Star Trek would have had better luck with women than I do. Yes, I do smell your vagina, Deanna, and I do crave much of what Earthmen crave. Women like yourself, with bodies that a normal Klingon would simply mount and wouldn't even need to remove any of your outer garment, stretched as it always is or already is around your beautiful childbearing hips. And it would just take one thrust and my semen would come out of your mouth. It would be so forceful with the pent-up heat and lust which I feel for you. And then you would be my woman, and I would thrust myself into you whenever I wanted. I'd bend you over at the bridge while the Ferengi was still on the main screen talking to that bald-headed geek. Baldly going where no bald man has gone before. Wolf, who are you talking to? I asked you for that Earl Grey tea hot 5 minutes ago, and my materializer has broken down again. Yes, Captain. I was simply musing over something, Captain. It is not important. I mean, writers, right? They get to put words in people's mouths. What an incredible thing. It's like, I want to put words in people's mouths. I'm like, let's see, what should I do? Have a child, and then make them into my personal puppet. I won't be their father, I'll be their dictator. And I'll put words in their mouths. I'll have them walk up to people and go, excuse me, ma'am,
my father thinks you're a stupid, ugly cunt. And she'd be like, my word. And she'll look at me and go, call the police. That man, he is evil. And then she'll look back and I would have disappeared. Like the night. It would be as though it never happened at all. My mom said something to me. She said something about not humiliating someone or, oh, shame. I said the word shame. It was like, I learned it's like, I mean, we kind of already know, but we don't, like, people have put it into words, and I think it's fairly accurate that shame isn't about other people, it's about ourselves. We have felt shame as, well, for everybody, I don't know the reasons, but like I have felt shame before, and it's like something just very disturbing inside of me that I would say was closer to fear or terror or just woundedness, just vulnerable, pure, like the part of me that can just turn up and just be pure wound, like a ball of woundedness. Like, please, just nothing, not a feather, not a drop, not an ill look can touch me, please. My defense mechanism sometimes around different predators I've met is to go into that place. It's like, look at how vulnerable I am, right? The worst thing I'm going to do to you is cry. And I can do that as a man. You know, these are all, I mean, I say I can do it like I have some control over it. It's just there are times when this is, I allow my emotional body and my mind to do what they need to do. I trust that. I trust the intelligence of my instincts, right? To just let out shame around a predator is, in a sense, should be a protection. But around, like, the one person I could think of, like a female, like a male I did it with, he kind of understood. But this female, older female, around about the same age, she didn't understand. And that's the thing about women, right? This is, you would think, like, aren't women sensitive? She couldn't pick up how ashamed she'd made me feel, right? In a sense that, you know, you've really penetrated my heart. You've penetrated my shield, right? And I've allowed you to do that because as a woman, you get a lot of my trust and consideration to begin with. And you violated that, right? Women want this respect from men, but this respect from men makes men vulnerable. You see, so when I talk misogynistically, which you call it what you want, is like I'm being miserable about and to essentially women, yes, to protect myself from them, because women can do things to me and I can't protect them. They do it in public, they do it around other people. You just can have to stand and take it. And they've done it enough in their own minds. Their brains are so about this, at least for men like me. There's very little you can do, except what I have done, which got me a year and a half of being stalked. It's ended pretty good for the time being. A year and a half of being stalked by this woman and any number of people around her, to the point where they were trying to exert a prerogative to get me to leave a provincial park where I've spent some of the most needful hours of my life, less than a kilometer from my home. There's basically 150 acres around a river, you know, to the point that I fell physically ill from this particular woman and her, whatever the fuck was going on, all because I drew a line and said, no, please don't approach me again. This is not a good use of my time and what I'm, doing in life. I'd have to change my fucking personality to want to interact with you again, in some of those words. And it was too much for them, and I always avoided them, never interacted with them again. It's just they could not live on or walk their dog on this provincial land without making a big fucking stink about it. Like no one had ever said no to them. And these people so often have worked with children their entire lives. I can't tell you how sick that makes me feel. Being 48 and going, is this the world you're asking me to participate in? That these are the fucking people? Is this what we are to expect? Meaning, seriously, should we expect that? Should we expect, as an occupational hazard, that people work with children are doing a little too much of telling other people much smaller than them what to do? I was actually, when I was at the mall buying my shoes, I was standing near this place where I guess they have some kind of daycare for children, and I walked by and I distinctly heard her say, "We're not going to eat until everybody's ready to eat," and telling them like how they do things there. And whatever the rule was, maybe it had a reason, maybe it didn't. And she started going on to other rules, and I'm not eavesdropping, I'm just walking by. So it's just all I heard while I was walking by. I didn't take it as evil or ill. I just thought, what an ugly place to have children. It just looked like such an ugly place. I wouldn't take my children there. It didn't look like a fun place to be at all. But people do, and I think if you take your child someplace ugly like that, I guess you deserve what you get. And it was a fat white woman that spends all of her life telling children what to do. And whether there's a good reason or not, I just think there's a lot of occupational hazards to that. I do. And in some sense, I'm saying to people who do that for work that you may deserve to get paid a lot more than you do and get a lot more time off. If it's necessary, like again, society, and we need people to take care of children and tell them what to do. Like, hey, we could do a lot of different things, but this is the best thing we've decided to do with the time we have with them. And this is why, and so forth and so forth. But it has its challenges. It's not perfect. There are occupational hazards to telling little people what to do all the time. Women do a lot of telling people what to do. In my life, I would say women have the most persuasive influence over the condition of their homes, more so than any man. If just by sickening it in some way, as a testament to just how impotent and angry she may feel in the face of the challenges of life, as she has most likely, yes, been forced to inherit them through some form of incredible violence that is not bound to get attended to by anyone, not even the people who care about you the most, if you're just hurting and threatening them all the time. And then what a savage way for such violence to then pass from one generation to the next and separate people from the people they need and whom they love and who love them the most. Is it a story that lives in the vapors and the stars that turn around my life? In the crabs and the fishes and the sounds of human laughter and dance and song and work? Is that a true thing about my life? Is that part of the knowledge that I am going to carry from one day to the next for the rest of my life? I'll have to find a way to take that to a happier place. And that's why it's the very reason people have words like, oh, let that go, or forgive, or let that go, let that go. Yeah. Don't you think if letting it go, people love to let things go? But look around you. Does it look like anyone ever lets anything go? What if we don't let it go? In fact, what if we do what we tell all of our children to do? What if we confront our problems and do something about it? But these are the kinds of problems you are most naturally and justifiably reluctant to do anything about, which makes it easier to not say anything about them, which makes it easier not to notice them. And you don't have to do all of those things, but noticing them and talking about them do become more important than doing anything about them. But these are things about which you would think people would want to do something about them more than anything else in the world, because they are the most harmful things. And you get rid of those, how much nicer would life be? Why wouldn't we do something about them? Why do we, even intelligent people like me, think we can't do anything about them? That people really get themselves into trouble under these conditions by trying to do too much and wait and stick with the earth and feel the love. Like there's a spirit coming through that tree right there, sap coming out of their face, like snot comes out of my nose, just like natural. Landon, you're natural. Look, it's even got blonde hair. It's like, Landon, you're such a wonderful natural being. You wonderful natural man. Just, this is true. This is healthy. This is medicine. You should enjoy this. This is your payment. Relax. You are speaking the medicine. Tide's going out. Good. You're speaking the medicine. This is good medicine. You're earning your keep on this earth. People say, hey, why should we pay this guy welfare? This is why. As much as you imagine that I'm taking something from you, and not the other way around, I don't think that's completely been settled. I think we owe it each day to make sure that we have something to offer other people. We each have to do that to satisfy ourselves. And you know what? I generally say that that is a matter of a sort of fait accompli. There's no one who breathes who does not labor to do so. I think we should take it easy on each other when it comes to what we think other people should do. And especially since most of us motherfuckers don't know what the fuck to do about most anything anyway, so why should you be telling someone what to do? Or what not to do? You know, do what you need to do. People make up stories in their head about what they do. I think one of the most courageous things I ever did was quit the only job I ever had and just go into the deep black oblivion that no one wants to go into. When the happy land of youth and even safety is gone, job gone, family gone, love gone, safety gone, and you just don't know where you're going to sleep tonight, but you find something and you go from. And right away, I didn't realize it. I had a really good instinct. You know, that's why people think of me as like homeless. It's like, I don't really care. I'll never be without a place to sleep. No, that's not true. Once or twice I was without a place to sleep. But it was pretty interesting, actually, how that happened. But, you know what I mean? Like, I live simple, but I live well. But I would never deny the fact that however I manage to live, I live strenuously. It is strenuous to be poor. You know, no one should make it seem like overly charming to be poor, but it's also like a place, like a beautiful world you don't want too many people going to. If too many people live the way I did, I think it would be less fun for me. I get to be one of those people. It's like being the first person to have a real USS Enterprise and go off where no man has gone before. And once more people start doing what I do, it's going to be like, oh, but Landon had all the fun. He got to do it when no one else was doing it. And other people are like, that nigga, because they'll be black, so they can say that. They'll be like, that nigga wasn't doing anything new. He was just finding his own, what's that called? Project. He was living in his own projects, man. Hanging out with the Stones and shit. I don't know. I doubt anyone would ever say that, but it's very nice of you. Thank you. Thanks, nigga. And that's just a white man trying to be polite to another nigga. You know what I'm saying? Nigga squared makes 4 niggas where there used to be 2. Now there's 4 niggas. Pretty soon it's going to be even more than that. We start letting in a few niggas, the whole world being niggified. Oh, okay. It's a sound, hearing the sound to stop. Niger. I mean, what if you mispronounced the word Niger and you were like an international airport and you're like, I want to go to nigger. You're like a redneck. I want to go to nigger, please. My wife and I, we got to go to nigger. My child marrying a blackie out there, and I got to get on. The wedding's tomorrow. Got to get the nigger. Excuse me, sir. We can't allow that language here. I got to get the nigger. We got to get the nigger as soon as possible. Do you mean Niger, sir? Niger. Yeah. Did I say nigger? I'm so sorry. I meant Niger. Nigger, Niger. I mean, what's tomato? Sir, we're going to have to ask you to stop saying the word nigger here, since we are all black. You're entering a black country. And we have won a lot of Olympic medals. You know, things like that. We are considered real people now, you know. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, you're one of the nicest niggas I ever met. Don't get me wrong. Our passports get taken away. Convies, I don't know what I said. Just wanted to go to Niger. You heard me say that, Niger? Yes, honey, I did hear you say Niger. Honey, I think they were quite patient. I mean, I think they still would have let you on after the 20th nigger, which you said to them. I think it was the 21st that did it. Because they're thinking, like, how many niggers do they have to hear from one white dude before they basically do what any one of these white niggers would have done after they heard the first N-word come out of his white, yellow motherfucking ass. And that's the end of that story. And the moral of that story is, don't say the N-word unless you're black. But if you're feeling black, That's kind of like black, isn't it? Or if your ancestors were black. If we all came from Africa and we're all a little bit black, and you're willing to do something black today. Every time you say the N-word, do something black. Recognize the blackness of man. Be like happy and stuff. And be like, yo, I feel joy being in God's creation. What do black people call God? God? Don't they have like a black God? I don't know. Like, what do black people call? They should have their own black God. Why are they using the white God? Like, can't they get their own God? Don't they have like a Zulu God or something? They probably do. Maybe his name is Obadibwa. Maybe it is. And they're like, Obadibwa. We are black with Obadibwa in this. And we got an Obadibwa over here and Obadibwa over there. And we're eating our Obadibwa very, very, very Obadibwe. E. Obadibwa. Yeah, Obadibwa. Now the black people have a God because a white man said so. And he speaks like the black man with Obadibwa. Because if I feel black, I think technically I have black. I have Obadibwa in me. And I look at these stones here and I say Obadibwa was here. Obadibwa. Look at these trees. Wow. Standing tall and great like you are. Everything is so great about trees. So great. Trees are so great. Trees are so great. Jesus is not the same treatise. Jesus is not my treatise. He's not my fetus. He's not my cletus. He's not my beatus on the drummus of my pumice. I don't need him with hummus. What do you eat Jesus with? Hey, we all cannibalizing a 3-month-old this Easter, man. What are you going to eat? I think the cream eggs really are a reference to the juicy innards of a 3-month-old baby. Because really, the cream in the egg would be a chicken fetus, right? Or a rabbit fetus. I don't know if rabbits have eggs or whatever, but I don't think they do. But whatever has eggs, crabs, spiders, and you're eating what would have been a child. You're eating a 3-month-old child, then you have the fertility, and you're eating the cream eggs. Cream eggs, there's no cream eggs in nature unless you're eating the fetus of some animal, right? And of course wrapped in tons of sugar, which is basically has the same effect of ethanol and heroin on your mind. And this represents a level of excitement and lowered inhibitions. And it's connected to nature. And has some legitimate claims upon maybe, Astarte or Istra and Esther and fertility and the moon and Kuan Yin and whatever the fuck, and peacefulness. And so it's like, on a cultural anthropological level, you can come at it any way you like. But I just see Jesus' blood. Motherfucker, what are you saying to me? When I come at you that way and I say, motherfucker. And I said that to my mother the other day. And I said it to my father. And I said it to the Holy Father himself. And I did. And I looked up to the Heavenly Father. And I said, holy motherfucker. Oh, shit. Sorry. And I looked up to the Mother and the Father in the heavens of the earth. And I said, what the fuck? I did. I said, what the fuck? I said, why the fuck do I have to deal with all this motherfucking bullshit? And do you want to know what they said to me? And they said, Landon, you are a man of extraordinary taste. You were a child always with remarkable appreciation for the delicate hues of the book of life itself. Yes, Mother and Father, I was. But what the motherfuck am I going to do with all this shit? Life is harder than just looking at the changing of the leaves while I walk to one of their institutional paddy wagons for the demolition of the human mind.
Yes, son, we know you've acquired a certain range of verbal execution. And you're right. Those schools are not good for anyone. But they are schools. And people still observe a great deal of value to these institutions. And your father and I, we put up with them. We try to get them subtly defunded, but then I think people assume that government is just taking more of their money, which of course they are. And they get tangled up with these people, and then don't even get us started about the people who own the world, our children, and create confounded representations of a mother and father that never seem to be able to work anything out without throwing billions of people under a bridge, and then exploding it like the one over the river Kwai. Why the fuck is this happening? Your mother and father and I, we've been talking about it for 1 billion years, and I'm telling you, Landon, you're the first motherfucker to ever look up at us and say, what the fuck is going on, and bother to listen to our answer. And now you'll get to tell other people, and Bibles can be changed, and religions can be re-erected in something closer to resembling perhaps your own anatomy as a man, which we declare here and now by the Holy